So good morning, my dear students. Welcome back to the GPS class. Am I audible clearly and visible? Yeah, Durga Chandan, please turn on your video. So Durga Chandan, please turn on your video. You have to register with your roll number only. Your name should be the second part of registration, and include your full 10-digit roll number together, no spaces in between. How many members joined the class till now? 76 members joined the class. So before we proceed to the present topic, any doubts in the yesterday's class? Any doubts in the yesterday's class? If you have any such doubts, you can raise your hand. I'll spend some time to clarify the doubts. If at all any doubts, you have to respond at least through chat. Okay. Right. If not, we'll proceed further. So I'll share the present topic, the PPTs. Are you able to view my screen? Are you able to view my screen? I need a response, please. Hello, somebody please respond through chat box. Are you able to view my screen? Yes, guys, please respond. Hello. Are you able to view the screen? I shared screen my. Hello. Are you present in the class? Please respond, guys. Hello. Am I audible to you? Naidruva? Am I audible to you? Bhargavi, am I audible to you? Hello. Josna Sai, am I audible to you? Is my screen visible? Is my screen visible to you? Okay, right. Okay. Right. Now we will understand the different design choices of a GPS receiver. We'll complete today this topic, that is GPS receivers design choices. So the first receiver design choice include the number of channels, and the sequencing rate, which you have already completed. How many channels are used, and what is the advantage of using the two channels, that also we have completed. And L2 capability, we are using L1 signal, L1 carrier signal and L2 carrier signal. So what is the main advantage of using the two carrier frequencies, also we completed. And the third topic is the code selection. In the process of modulation of the GPS signal, that is 50 bits per second BPSK modulation, we are using the pseudo random noise codes. That is, one code is called as a C by A code and another code is called the P code. And we have also seen some of the receivers which do not require any code at all. That is like most of the receivers are the commercial receivers. Commercial receivers do not require any pseudo random noise code because they can demodulate the signal by using a simple square law method. So up to this we have completed in the receiver design choices, and these 5 topics are to be covered now. That is, how a GPS receiver is having access to the SCA signals. So what is SCA here? That is, as we have seen in the previous classes, selective availability. So selective availability signals whether they have access or not, and which type of receivers are having the access, and how they are accessing the SCA signals, and how they are able to reject the unwanted signals. So these are the things that are going to be learned in this class. And differential GPS. One of the major advancement in the technology of GPS is the differential GPS. So differential global positioning system will aid to overcome the errors that are caused by the GPS error sources. And one of the newest topic here is the pseudo satellite and its compatibility. This is a very vast topic, and of course it's a very, very important topic, and one of the persons has done a PhD on this topic, that is pseudo satellites. So pseudo satellite compatibility, and there should be some immunity to the pseudo-light signals, and finally the aiding inputs. So with a brief review to the previous topics, I'll straight away go ahead to the selective availability signals. If at all any signal reception quality is not there, please remind me here itself. If not, in the class group chat, so that I will strengthen my internet connectivity. As of now, I feel it is good. So be present throughout the class. If at all any signal reception quality is not there, if my voice is breaking, or if you are unable to view the shared screen, then remind me through the message in the class group, so that I will change my internet strength. I will increase my internet strength through another mode. Am I clear? Please say yes or no. Hello. Am I clear, my dear students? Please say yes or no, at least. Hello. Are you there in the class? Okay. If you are unable to listen to my voice, or if there is any if there is any error in the sharing of the signal, then remind me. I will change my quality of the internet soon. Right. So number of channels and the sequencing rate, this we have completed. The number of channels, maybe 2 channels or 3 to 5 channels, or multiple channels are used. What is the process used? That is, there are 8 steps in the receiver design: single channel receivers, multi-channel receivers, 2 to 3 channel receivers, and what are the different sequencing designs. And next, capability of the L2 signal. It is using a wide bandwidth. It is in the range of megahertz, 1227.6 megahertz. So then code selections, we are using C by A code, P code, or sometimes no code, that is codeless techniques. Advantage of using the P code. Now, next most important is the access to the SCA signals. selective availability signals. Access to the selective availability signals. So what is SA? First of all, selective availability, that refers to the errors that may be intentionally introduced into the satellite signals by the military to prevent the full accuracy capability by the civilian community. See, the GPS technique was developed for the first time for the military use of the US Army, and now they don't want, but later on they have expanded their applicability to the civilian community and commercial purposes, but they don't want the civilian community to accurately navigate, so that they will degrade the signal reception by the civilian GPS receivers. And this technique is called as the selective availability. That means they are making available the GPS signals only to the specific users or only to the specific receivers, and to the specific other receivers or other users, they are restricting the signal strength, or they are restricting the availability of the signals. That's why it is called as the selective availability. So these errors appear to be random, but have a zero long-term average value, and with a standard deviation of 30 meters minimum. So what it results? It results in an error in the position calculation by the receivers. How much that error caused to be? It is caused to be in the range of 50 to 100 meters. And it is magnified by the dilution of precision. That is position dilution of the precision. So we have seen the satellite geometry matters more. In the yesterday's class we have seen the satellite geometry should be good. If it is not good, then that DOP, that is dilution of precision, will result in erroneous calculations. That is position dilution of precision will cause some errors. So this is to be reduced to a great extent. So whenever we are designing a receiver, it should cope up with these limitations. So what are the various sources of SA errors? That may include the ephemeris data transmitted by the satellite. So ephemeris data include the orbital locations, the orbit locations of the satellites, and the rest of that is accomplished by the dithering of the satellite clock. That means there is some difference between the UTC, that is UTC is used by the satellite clock, and the local clock is used by the normal quartz clock is used by the GPS receiver. There is some time difference, and it controls the timing of the carrier and that of the code waveforms. So there is always some dithering. So civil users with a single receiver have no way to eliminate the errors due to the selective availability. But the authorized users, most of the cases, the military peoples, have a key. They will have an encrypted key that will remove them completely. So, and the second one is the differential capability. Of course, this is in the sequence L2 capability, number of channel sequencing rate, L2 capability, code selections is the third one, and fourth one is the access to the SA signals, and fifth one is the differential capability. So GPS receiver must have a differential capability. The GPS receiver must have a differential capability. Of course, based upon this, we have a separate unit, that is differential GPS. Unit 4 is that, but we will study to some extent what is the differential capability. The GPS receiver must have a differential capability. So what the differential capability involves? This concept involves the use of the user's receiver, not only the user's receiver, but also a reference receiver at an accurately known location within 200 kilometers of the user. So there is a GPS receiver which is to be tracked or which is to be navigated, that we call it as a user. In addition to this user, we will locate another receiver we will locate another receiver within the vicinity, that is up 200 kilometers, and we call that as a reference station, and whose coordinates are already known. Whose coordinates are already known. So because the location of the reference receiver is known, the pseudo range errors that are common to the user and reference receiver can be measured and removed in the user's positioning calculations. So what is the advantage of using a reference station? So we will measure the distance from a user or an actual receiver, and also from the reference station. User locations we don't know, but reference locations we already knew. The reference location we already knew. At the reference location also we have a receiving antenna and GPS receiver is there. And we will calculate position of this, and we will calculate position of this. And later stage at the master control session, we will compare these two. And if at all there is any errors in the original user, and that will be corrected, that will be compared by the reference station, and it will be corrected and will give the final solution, and will be given the final solution. This is called as the differential capability. Hence the name is called as the differential GPS receiver. And of course, in the previous we studied the GPS receivers to use or to avail the differential capability, it must have a differential GPS receiver. If differential GPS receiver is not present in a GPS receiver, then it cannot have a differential capability. So differential capability means to have a reference station. To have a reference station. Of course, there are 25 locations on the Earth surface by the GPS. So what are the errors that are common to the both receivers? So one is the selective availability error. Of course, this is typically around 30 meters. And second one is the ionospheric delay. Ionosphere is consisting of ionized molecules, because of which a propagation group delay may occur, and it can be 20 to 30 meters during the day and 3 to 6 meters during night, because during the night there may be less ionization will be there, because there is no activity will be there in the night time. So that the receivers that can utilize both L1 and L2 frequencies can largely remove these errors by applying the inverse scalar dependence of the delay on the frequency that we know already. And tropospheric delays. The third delay is the tropospheric delays. So these delays occur in the lower atmosphere. Upper atmosphere, ionospheric delay; lower atmosphere, tropospheric delays. And these are usually smaller and more predictable. Ionospheric we cannot predict, but tropospheric we can predict. And they are very less errors they will cause, that is 1 to 3 meters range, but can be significantly large at a low satellite elevation angles. At a predefined satellite elevation angles, these are less. The error caused due to the tropospheric delays is less. But if the elevation angle of the satellites is lower, then the error due to troposphere delays will also be more. The next one is the ephemeris errors. So ephemeris errors are which are the difference between the actual satellite location and the location predicted by the satellite orbital data. So satellite is present here, able to view. The satellite is present somewhere around here, but the orbital values that are given by the RF signal sent from the satellite, and the predicted satellite position is some other. It is here, but supposed to be here. You can imagine this. My hand is actual position, but it is at a distance location. The charging box, it is at some other location, and because of this, there is some erroneous case may occur, and that will be very less. It is less than 3 meters, and it will be smaller as satellite tracking technology is improving. And the fifth error is the satellite clock error. So these are the difference between the actual satellite clock time and that is predicted by the satellite data. Always there is a mismatch between the clocks that are used by the satellite and by the GPS clock, GPS receiver clock. Understood? Any doubts? You can raise hand or ask me a question in the chat box. not, we'll move on to the next topic. So, how to do the corrections that are caused? How to do the corrections that are caused due to the above mentioned five error sources, in the differential GPS receivers. So there are two domains, which is called, one is called as the measurement domain and other one is called as the solution domain. So corrections are done for the errors caused due to the above said five error sources. One is called as the measurement domain and other one is called as the solution domain. So where it is the measurement domain? The corrections are determined for pseudo range measurements to each satellite in view of the reference receiver. And the user simply applies the corrections corresponding to the satellites to the roving receiver, that is observing receiver. So measurement, pseudo range measurements to each satellite in view of the reference receiver, and they are applied to the roving receiver. Roving receiver means actual receiver, actual user's receiver. This is called as the measurement domain. In the solution domain approach, the reference station computes the position error that results from the pseudo range measurements to a set of satellites, and this is applied as a correction to the user's computed position. It is not transmitted to the user directly. It is applied as a correction. To the user's computed position. A significant drawback to the solution domain approach is that the user and reference station must use exactly the same set of satellites in the position correction. If it is to be valid. If not, reference uses some satellite and user uses some other satellite, then there is a mismatch. So always the preferable one is the measurement domain correction and not the solution domain approach. But there are two things are existing. In most of the cases, reference stations does not know which satellites can be received by the roving receiver. Roving receiver means actual receiver, and therefore would have to transmit the position corrections for many possible sets of satellites. So the actual receiver or roving receiver doesn't know the information which satellite has sent the signals, and receiver is sending some correction information. So the reference receiver sends some correction information. Whether it is true or not, how to decide? There is an ambiguity. So to overcome this, it has to send many of the correction things. So this is not used practically, and measurement domain is used most practical cases and many of the applications. And there is real-time and post-processed correction. In some applications, like surveying, most of the surveying techniques, it is not necessary to obtain the differentially corrected position solutions in the real time. In these applications, it is common practice to obtain the corrected positions at a later time by bringing together the recorded data from both the receivers. So they will take the recorded data from both the receivers and later on they will apply the corrections, and this is called as the post-processed correction. And there is no reference to user data link is necessary if the recorded data from both receivers can physically transported to a common computer for processing. So where does this common computer will be present? Will be present in the INMCC, that is Master Control Station. INMCC is Indian National Master Control Station. It is present in the Bangalore. Of course, I already told this topic. Next, this is very, very important. That is pseudo satellite compatibility. So what it is? It is the pseudo satellite compatibility. So we have seen or studied about the receiver's block diagram. Let us go back to the receiver's block diagram. You would have asked me a question during that time, but none of you asked me. But now the time has come. So here you can see in the block diagram of a GPS receiver. So GPS receiver has first stage as the RF stage, which the signal is received The RF signal is received through receiving antenna of the antenna, and it is passed through the band pass filter, amplified and sent to the mixer for the first IF conversion, that is frequency down conversion. If it is not sufficient, it will again down convert in the second intermediate frequency conversion. The intermediate frequency is nothing but the frequency mixing. The frequency mixing purposes, it will use the reference oscillator, which will generate a local oscillator frequency through frequency synthesis, and that will be sent as a second signal to the mixer in the IF stage 1 and also the IF stage 2. Of course, it is band pass filtered and amplified and given to the A to D converter to convert the analog data into the digital data. And after digitization process of the IF signal, here code acquisition tracking is done, carrier acquisition tracking is done, and the bit synchronization is done, and navigation message demodulation is done. After that, you can see code pseudo ranging or carrier pseudo ranging. Here is, we said it is pseudo ranging. It is not the actual ranging process. It is the pseudo ranging process. So what is pseudo ranging? Pseudo ranging comes when the pseudo satellites are present in the vicinity. Right. So this is pseudo satellite compatibility. The differential GPS can improve the above said, can improve the reliability, can improve the integrity and accuracy of the GPS navigation. So what are the advantages of the differential GPS? We can make a note separately in a notebook. So can improve the reliability, integrity and accuracy of the GPS navigation. But it cannot overcome the inherent limitations that are critical to the successful operation in specific applications. There are some error sources which are internally generated. Inherent means they are present within. So there are certain limitations which are present within the GPS receiver. And a major limitation of such is the poor satellite geometry, which can be caused by signal failure of one or more satellites, signal blockage by local objects and or some terrains, and occasional periods of high position DOP, and which can occur even with full constellation of the satellites. So there are some limitations. A major limitation is poor satellite geometry. Satellite geometry must be exactly known to the receiver. Then only he can give the accurate navigation message. Otherwise, it will give some error. And this may be caused by the failure of one or more satellites. If the health of the satellite is not good, that's why in the navigation message there is the fifth frame is consisting of the health of the navigation message. Whether you remember or not, we have studied this in our unit 2. And signal blockage by the local objects and some terrains, and occasional periods of high position dilution of precision, and which can occur even with a full constellation of the satellites. Even if there is no damage to the health of the satellites, this may occur. So in some cases, a navigation solution may not exist for the vertical. So this will cause a vertical positioning error, not mostly the horizontal position error, and which is more sensitive to this effect, which is bad news for the aviation applications. So most of the cases, the aeroplanes or the flights of the army or anything, they will fly. So there is always altitude will matter. So if there is error in the vertical position, then accidents may occur in the missed traffic control by the aviation people. So this is a major concern in the aviation applications. Please make a note of this. Maybe ask it in the objective questions. So the use of pseudo satellites can solve these problems within a local area. For this purpose, we need not to build a large system within a local area by using a pseudo lights. Pseudo light, nothing but a pseudo satellite. It is not a satellite. See, there is a satellite. There are 24 satellites are present in the GPS constellation that we know. And we are using another satellite, which is called as a local satellite. From that, a signal is sent, RF signal is sent, That's why we are calling it as a pseudo range measurement, not the range measurement. And this can solve the problem. How it is going to solve the problem, we'll study now. So what is a pseudo light? Please make a note of this definition. It is simply a ground-based transmitter. A pseudo light is a ground-based transmitter that acts as an additional GPS satellite. By transmitting a GPS-like signal. Make a note of this. Please write this definition. Very, very important. A pseudolight is a ground-based transmitter that acts as an additional GPS satellite by transmitting a GPS-like signal. Am I audible? My internet connection shows it is slow. Please respond, guys. Am I audible? Hello? Hello? Is the screen visible and my audibility is good? Excuse me, guys. Is my screen visibility is good and my audibility is good? Okay, thank you. Right. So this signal can be utilized by a receiver for pseudo ranging and can also convey the messages to the receiver to improve the reliability and signal integrity. So we are using a local satellite signal. You can assume that as a local satellite. A local satellite will also send a signal that is called as a pseudo satellite, and that signal is like GPS signal but not GPS signal. And for this, the GPS has given one RTCM SC104 a separate appendix for that, and to study the pseudolight system and receiver design. Okay, that is what are present in that. The major improvements offered by the pseudolights are as follows. The first one is improvement in the geometry. Pseudolights that are acting as the additional satellites can provide major improvements in the geometry. Hence, in positioning accuracy within their region of coverage, that is vertical DOP as well as horizontal DOP, dilution operation can be dramatically reduced, which is of major importance to aviation. So they can improve the geometry. First one. And second one is the improvement in the signal availability. So navigation solutions with fewer than the minimum required number of GPS satellites are made possible by using the additional signals provided by the pseudolights. So availability of the signals will be improved. Second advantage. And third one is inherent transmission of the differential corrections. So the GPS-like signals are transmitted by the pseudolight, including the messaging capability that can be received directly by the GPS receiver. Thus allows the user to receive differential corrections without the need for a separate communication link. For this purpose, we are not using a separate satellite, geostationary satellite. We are using a local communication link. So the GPS-like signal will be sent to the receiver, and correction of the errors is done, and this information is sent to the actual user. And the fourth one is self-contained failure notification. So this is the beauty. The additional signals provided by the pseudolights permits the users means actual receivers, to perform their own failure assessments. This is the beauty of the pseudolights. So if, for example, if pseudo range measurements from 4 satellites and 1 pseudolight are available, a problem can be detected by examining the consistency of the measurements. Or if 2 pseudolights are available, one not only can the failure of a single signal be detected, but offending signal can be identified as well. If 2 pseudolights are available, means not only a failure but also the offending satellite can be found. And these advantages are especially important in aviation, of course, where pilot notification of signal failures must occur very rapidly, that is within 1 to 10 seconds. If not, because the speed of the flights are very, very high compared to the road transportation. And the fifth one is the solution of the signal blockage problems. So we have studied the signal may be blocked by the terrains or high hills like that. The additional signals from pseudolights can virtually eliminate the problems due to blockage of the satellite signals by the objects like terrain or the receiving platform itself. Sometimes the receiving platform itself may block the signals. So all these are overcome by the pseudolight or pseudo satellites. Next, what is the structure of a pseudolight signal? See, we said the pseudo satellites will send a GPS-like signal. It is not a GPS signal. Then what should be the structure of a pseudolight signal? The pseudolight signal structure would permit the reception by a standard GPS receiver with little or no modification of the receiver design. See, the GPS receiver is designed to receive a GPS signal, and the same GPS receiver with little modification or no modification sometimes can receive the GPS-like signal also, that is signal from the pseudo satellite. Thus, it would seem that the pseudo light signal should have a unique C/A code with the same characteristics as that of a C/A codes that are used by the satellites. So we know that the C/A code is used by the GPS signal, receiver signal, and also the P code is used, and the local pseudo satellite will also use the same C/A code. But with this scheme, it would be difficult to prevent a pseudolight signal from interfering with the reception of the satellite signals, even if its C/A code were orthogonal to the satellite codes. So this fundamental difficulty, which is called the near-far problem, occurs because of the inverse square law dependence of the received signal power with the range. So here, the pseudo satellite signal is received with the same properties, and the satellite signal is received with the same properties. But the pseudo satellite is near to the receiver and actual satellite is very far away from the receiver. Then how to differentiate this? So there comes the problem of near-far problem. This fundamental difficulty is called as the near-far problem, which occurs because of the inverse square law dependence of the received signal power with the range. See, the distance of the signal is calculated by the inverse square law. The received signal strength is inversely proportional to the distance. Of course, that is called that you might be knowing from your microengineering. So this near-far problem does not occur with GPS satellite signals because the variation in the user to satellite range is relatively small compared to its average value. So we'll take an average value. The average value is not far. The average value is nearly same. Hence, there will not be any problem of the far and near. Next. The problem. Okay, this is illustrated in another diagram. You can observe this. Yeah, you can see this. This is illustrated here. So this, please try to draw this diagram. Take a pen or pencil and draw it in your notebooks, all of you. So this is the zone of no pseudolight pulse overlap. So this is, am I audible? Hello? Am I audible? And the screen is visible? Please respond, guys. Sorry for the interruption. There is a network issue from my side, and now I reconnected. Okay. Okay. So you can see here. So from pseudo satellite A to pseudo satellite B, there is a distance of 54 kilometers, and the zone of no wideband pulse clipping. There is no pulse clipping, and that range is 30 kilometers. This is enough. And from pseudo satellite A to this zone, this is around 12 kilometers, and from pseudo satellite B to this range, this is again 12 kilometers. So there is no chance of any interference. There is no chance of any interference. This is how the signal blockage problem is avoided by usage of the pseudo satellites. By usage of the pseudo satellites, and this is the minimum separation required between the pseudo satellites if you are going for a pseudo range measurements. Now we'll go back. So we are here, right? The signal structure. Pseudo light signal design approach. How to design a pseudo satellite or pseudo light signal will be studied here. For this purpose, we have to use high performance pseudo random codes. We have to use a high performance pseudo random codes, that is must. And second one is there should be frequency offset, pseudo light frequency offset. And the third one is we have to use a TDM with a low duty cycle. We have to use a time division multiplexing with a low duty cycle. Low duty cycle will improve the signal strength. If you are using a high duty cycle, then on time and off time are equal. If off time is more, then it will result in a signal strength decrease. Signal strength decrease. Next, we'll talk about the pseudo light characteristics. What are the specific characteristics that are to be maintained by a pseudo satellite or simply pseudo light? So first one is pseudo light identification. A pseudo light must be identifiable. It is accomplished by both a unique gold code, we are using a unique gold code, and its physical location, which appears in its 50 bits per second message. The GPS signal will send the same signal with 50 bits per second, and pseudo light signal is also sending with the same message with the 50 bits per second. Since the pseudo light signals are low power and can be received only within a relatively small coverage area, it is possible for the pseudo lights spaced sufficiently far apart to use the same gold code. In this case, the correct identification is affected by noting the location transmitted by the pseudo light. Excellent point. So pseudo light, as well as the actual satellite is sending its geometry, the pseudo light also sends its geometry. So we can note very clearly the receiver can clearly compare the geometries of the pseudo satellite and the actual satellite. This is how a GPS receiver is able to identify the pseudo light from that of a original satellite by knowing the satellite geometry along with the gold code, especially designed gold code. That is nothing but one of the pseudo random noise codes. Second, and pseudo light clock offset. Since the pseudo light can monitor the GPS signals over extended time periods, it can determine the GPS time. This permits the transmitted epochs of the pseudo light signal to be correct in GPS time and avoids the necessity of the transmitting pseudo light clock corrections. The time reference for the differential pseudo range corrections transmitted by the pseudo light is also the GPS time. So pseudo lights are using the different clock offset. So depending on this clock offset, the receiver is able to identify the pseudo light signals. And of course, most importantly, the transmitted signal power. The transmitted signal power will be less for the pseudo light. The primary use of the pseudo light signal is for aircraft, of course, in the terminal areas, so that a typical maximum reception range is 50 kilometers. At this range, a half hemisphere omnidirectional transmitting antenna FET with approximately 30 milliwatts of signal power will provide a signal level that is comparable to that of a typical GPS satellite, that is minus 116 dB meters. At a range of 50 meters, the signal level will be 60 decibels larger. So by using a minimum of the signal power transmission, we can have a pseudolite signal. Next, pseudolite message structure. We have seen the GPS signal message structure, and pseudolite message also should have a definite or predefined message structure. The pseudolite data stream is 50 bits per second to ensure the compatibility with the GPS receivers, but its structure must be modified to transmit information that differs somewhat from that transmitted by the GPS satellites. So navigation message will have 5 frames, each frame with some specified subframes, which that is different. Now, the original GPS satellite and pseudo satellite are using the same modulation technique with the same data stream, 50 bits per second. But there should be some uniqueness to the pseudo satellite. Of course, all this will be given in some reference, which is not important for us. But to understand the message structure of a GPS signal is different than that of a pseudo satellite. That is the point to be understood here. And finally, the minimum physical spacing. The minimum physical spacing of the pseudolites. So placement of the pseudo satellites involves the considerations that depend on whether the pseudolites use the same or different gold codes. If they use same codes, then a separate spacing should be maintained between them. If they use the same code, they will be synchronized. Synchronize the timing of the gated signals of the pseudolites and separate the pseudolites by a distance that guarantees that received transmissions from different pseudolites will not overlap. By using the distance, we can separate using the same code. This requires that the pseudolites can be separated by at least 130 kilometers, which guarantees that a user 50 kilometers from the desired pseudolite will be at least 80 kilometers from the undesired pseudolite. If it is 50 kilometers from the desired pseudolite, then it will be 80 kilometers away from the undesired satellite. So 30 plus 50, 80 plus 50 is around 130. If they are using the different codes, this is for same code. If you are using the different codes, when the user must receive several pseudolites simultaneously, separation of the signals from the different pseudolites might be possible by using the different timing offsets. Of course, in the pseudolite signal design approaches, we have seen this by using the different timing offsets of the transmitted pulses. However, this would substantially complicate the design because the pseudolite itself is for some specific application, but this will complicate the system design. So a preferred approach is to use the synchronous transmissions, but space the pseudolites so that when the received pulses do overlap, they can still be recovered by using a suitable low-cost receiver design. Even if they overlap, they should be recovered. We should use such a local receiver. This situation is clarified by considering the two pseudolites that are shown in the figure. Of course, this diagram. Of course, about this we have already studied. So till now, any doubts? Please respond, guys. Any doubts? Okay, if you have no doubts, I'll wind up. And after this, we have to talk about a receiver design to shoot for the pseudolites. Talk about the receiver design to shoot for the pseudolites. Till now, we have learned pseudo satellite design approaches and pseudo satellites, how to separate them. But what are the modifications to be done in a GPS receiver to accept a pseudolite signals? That will be dealt in the next class. If you have any doubts, you can raise hand or you can type in the chat box. You can also type in the chat box. I'll wait for some time. If not, I'll wind up the class for today. Hello. Are you there, guys? Are you there in the class? If no doubts, I will wind up the class. Shall I wind up the class? Okay, thank you for today's class.